From running for 9 seasons to the CW wanting to change their direction, these are the real reasons for The Flash coming to an end. First off, the former CEO had stated that the network must move on. Now, if you've just been insanely lucky with the CW, that probably means they haven't canceled your favorite show yet. See, this network is extremely popular for canceling some of its hit shows, including Supergirl. So, of course, because both of these have been iconic parts of the Arrowverse, fans had been terrified that the same was going to happen to The Flash, which has been the second longest running superhero show on the network, behind Arrow. So, the CW's former CEO, Mark Pedowitz, who's since left in October 2022, took some time to explain why they needed to move on. According to him, The Flash had to come to an end, as the network was heading towards a time of transition, which meant that they'd be focusing more on unscripted TV. But what's been incredible for The Flash is, unlike Batwoman, this story was allowed a proper send-off. Now, as bittersweet as that makes the end for Flash fans, it's also insanely unfair as well, because the transition seems out of nowhere for people who had already lost their stories. Well, do you guys think this ending will try and make up for all the final chapters some of your favorites didn't get? And isn't it going to be a little weird that this universe is really being wrapped up? Of course, I'm not going to cut down the heartbreak actors on the show must have also felt, especially the Flash himself, Grant Gustin, as the actor had shared an emotional video of him hanging up the suit after filming the final season. And if y'all haven't seen that post on his Instagram, I highly recommend getting some tissues, cause for me, all the feelings came up. Cause the way he patted the suit after it was on the hanger, like it was a silent goodbye from him? Come on. Look, guys, say what you will about the network, but you've got to give it to the actors for always bringing their A game, especially everyone who had been part of the Arrowverse. It was a whole year when these shows started popping up, and you legit just need to find some Comic-Con vids to know I'm right. And Grant's performance as the Flash made him an iconic superhero, in between all the angst that most of the other shows gave us. I think we can all agree on that if you've seen any of the massive crossover events everyone stayed up for. So it goes without saying, for many of us, Gustin will always stay the true Flash, but depending on how they end this series on May 24th, we may never see him wear the red suit again. I know, it's an incredible thought, isn't it? But it brings up a pretty good question. What are the chances that we see this actor play the Flash again? Well, if Grant reprises his role, it won't be on the CW. And that's something the showrunner, Eric Wallace, has already confirmed. He'd said that there would have been plans for a spin-off if the future of the OG series was uncertain. But since the CW was kind enough with them, there hadn't been any discussions. Now, as much as that makes sense, that isn't what's always been the case with this network. If you'd been there for its initial days, we'd got spin-offs like the originals that had started while its OG show, The Vampire Diaries, was in full swing. And Arrow had also tried to launch a spin-off show for the next generation that had done pretty well for its backdoor pilot, but it wasn't greenlit. Don't you guys think that Wallace's statement isn't the full truth about why there's going to be no chance that the main cast cameos somewhere else? Because if that's the case, then perhaps it's more on the actors' part if they'd be up to reviving their roles at any point. But as far as Grant might be concerned, his goodbye post for his character seemed pretty final, and who could blame him? Still, never say never. Maybe there'll be a massive event that reunites all our faves at some point. Though, whether that's soon? Unlikely. Right now then, we've got to focus on the finale coming up, cause, as I said, it'll officially be the end of an era. So, how could we expect 9 seasons of this epic story to wrap up? Guys, of course, I've got some theories. And one of the big ones is how this season's villain might explain our Arrow's return. Okay, so spoiler alert. Now, it's already confirmed that Stephen Amell will be returning as Green Arrow in the 9th episode of this season. And yes, you're not alone in screaming and crying because of that. But other than nostalgia, his cameo might explain one of the biggest mysteries about the Flash story right now: the existence of a multiverse. See, the easiest way to use Amell's character is to figure out what the Red Death's timeline is, and do it by bringing back a version of Oliver Queen. I think you guys can pick up the breadcrumbs I'm hinting at. So, in theory, this Queen variant could give Barry some clues about how to defeat the Red Death. And if not that, it at least gives us another episode where these guys pair up, before it all goes away. And if this variant is anything like the Oliver we know, well, Barry might get some moments to tell him things he couldn't tell his late friend. But that'll be it. The epic finale to the Arrowverse. And how awesome is it that Barry Allen is giving us this send-off? And with what we've gotten to know about the structure of this season, well, we're running back to our roots. As the producers have said, we'll be following a graphic novel story arc. And if you've been a fan of the earlier season storylines, we're all crossing our fingers that we get those same hints to the OG novels. Seriously, do y'all remember how massive it was that we went to the Flashpoint in the 2nd season? Or that Reverse Flash was introduced as the main villain for so long? Like, come on. This series has certainly given us some of the best moments in the Arrowverse. So now it's down to these 13 episodes to do this huge arc justice. And don't get me wrong, the writers have time to give us a wonderful ending with the first half, which will have 8 episodes, and then continue into our last goodbye with the final 9. Because how the episodes are named after previous seasons, they're certainly going to pull on our hearts. But maybe these reminders are just what we need. Isn't it time the series ended? Now, if we're going with Grant, the answer's yes. Okay, I'm not trying to break anyone's heart here, but like he said in his Insta post, he's been able to play this character for 10 years. Guys, that's a long time for him to know every part of this lovable character. But at a certain point, he's got more projects to get to, and a gorgeous family that he can't seem to stop smiling about, and he shouldn't. Also, with some of the OG cast missing, like the incredible Cisco, I think it's time we let this series complete its final run, especially because whatever else happened, at least we didn't have to face another series get canceled, and that's a W we've got to take. Those have been the real reasons why we'll be saying goodbye to Barry Allen in the final season of The Flash.